Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to the Proof of Talent podcast. My name is Rob Paone, and welcome to the podcast where we talk about everything related to the career journey in the blockchain, crypto, and Web3 space. Today, I have a special guest on the podcast. It is one of my colleagues, our senior recruiter at Proof of Talent, Jared Delin. How are you doing today, Jared?
Good. Glad to be here.
Well, yeah. Thanks for joining me. And I'm excited about this episode because Jared is actually the second person that I hired at Proof of Talent. Is currently our most senior recruiter. Has some really great experience hiring and working with companies within the industry. And so excited to kind of dive into the experience he has, but also how he got into the industry as well. So maybe let's kick it off on this discussion with how and what were you doing professionally before starting at Proof of Talent? What was your career background prior to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started in recruitment pretty much out of school. I think I had a few sales jobs before that, but I was in staffing and recruiting for 3 years. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. And I certainly wanted to, you know, be a part of the crypto industry. But at that time, it was just regular tech sales recruitment. Yeah.
What made you interested in finding a job in the industry? I know you said you kind of had that desire to get into the space. Was there anything in particular that was really kind of driving that?
Yeah. At the time, I was doing general tech sales and marketing, um, and I liked it. But I think recruitment is research, and basically any minute of every day that I wasn't working, I was you know down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and just researching, reading articles, watching videos, listening to podcasts, all in the crypto space. I got super into investing in general, and that sort of led me down the path of crypto. So when the idea came to recruit in the space, it just seemed like a no-brainer. Yeah.
And when you started to think about like working in the industry, was there anything in particular that gave you pause or hesitation? Because you were going from a recruiting job, like you said, that was in tech sales and an industry that's been around for a while. Was there any kind of concerns on your end, or were you nervous at all about thinking about a job in this space, knowing that knowing how new it is?
Yes and no. I mean, I think when I thought about tech in general, I had a lot of mentors who've been in recruitment for 20 plus years, and I've seen the ebbs and flows of technology, of how recruitment works, the ups and downs of it all. And I thought about major tech that's already proven. When you think of Facebook, Google, Amazons of the world, and I really saw I could the way I thought about it was I either could join a major company and be part of it and be one number of 1,000 people at a company, or I can join an industry that's trying to disrupt technology, that's trying to do something a bit different. And yeah, to me, I just saw more of an opportunity than a risk. I mean, everything is risk in life, but I saw more of an opportunity there than anything else.
Nice. And it's worth chatting through how you even got the job at Proof of Talent because you reached out to me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so how did you go about even finding Proof of Talent and finding me and kicking off that conversation if you
Yeah,
remember that?
that's a great question. So I actually wasn't really looking for a new job. I was doing well, pretty happy in recruitment, making good money, and I, but like I was saying earlier, all I was thinking about when I wasn't recruiting for insert, SaaS cloud, whatever technology I was recruiting for, it just wasn't, or payroll, HR, like it just wasn't exciting to me personally. And I think I had seen, uh, I saw you on LinkedIn. I saw you had started a business. I saw you were in the space previously. And I was just curious to learn more. I was genuinely curious just to have a call, a chat, see what you were planning, what you were thinking about. At the time, I think it was just you and Colton. And that was really my intention, was just to have a get to know you and kind of figure out, you know, your thoughts. and and then after that, I think I saw that Pompliano tweeted out about proof of talent. So I thought that was an interesting piece. And then we started talking and didn't think anything of it. And then after having the conversation with you the first time, I was like, yeah, this makes too much sense. I got to have a follow up. And sure enough, here we are 2 years later. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. And I also think like when I was working, it's kind of the same feelings that I had when I was working at the time I was at 2017, early 2018, I was at Oracle, and it was like I had a good job. I made good money. You know, I could have kept doing that for the next 20 years. And that was kind of the plan, but all I did was spend every, waking minute on Twitter and then making YouTube videos about crypto. And like that's all I was thinking about was just the crypto space. And it's like I can't. There's an opportunity here, and like I care about this a lot more than I care about selling accounting software. So I feel like that's, and this might be an assumption, but I think that's something that a lot of people kind of feel when they want to get into space. It's like it's all you think about, it's all you're interested in, at least like
Yeah.
intellectually, and an opportunity presents itself, or you make that opportunity kind of come to fruition for yourself.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I was thinking the same exact thing. That conventional wisdom that they talk about where, I think back in the day, it was more of a reality where you could just be in an industry, maybe had like a pension, and, they talk about all this, working for 40 years at a job you kind of don't like, and, maybe you'll put some money aside for a 401k or something. And I just was like, why can't you also enjoy what you're doing too? So that was a big key factor for me too. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things you did in the interview process, because looking back, and I think Colton and I talked about it with you later on, but I think it's good. It's a good discussion point. And I don't remember the tech you used, but
Uh,
you sent video thank you notes after your interviews, and I think even after the final interview. So after every stage of the interview process with Jared, I got a LinkedIn in-mail with a video thank you note. There was actually another candidate that we're interviewing for the same role that was quite good and seemed to be very talented, and we kind of had to make a decision which way to go. And that was one of the things, and luckily, I'm sure the other candidate was great as well, but Jared's phenomenal. But luckily, we made that decision, and part of it was just based on the initiative. So I'd love to hear like how you thought about that as a job seeker, because I think that's a step of initiative that a lot of people don't take, but it can put you over the edge in a significant way.
yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure looking back at those videos, they're pretty corny, but it was, I think at the time my thought process was, uh, I, part of my previous job beyond just the recruitment, I was also doing the business development, marketing myself, branding, trying to get new business as well to then recruit for them. And part of that strategy was doing video messaging, trying to be different, trying to differentiate yourself. And, I thought, yeah, I could do a follow up, thank you email like everyone else who does that. And it's kind of just, you write a few bullet points about what you talked about and thank you for your time and looking forward to next steps. And I was just like, you know what, I'm already sending out these videos. Let me be a little different. Let me hopefully make an impression. And thankfully that worked out. So yeah, I guess anyone
Yeah.
interviewing, try to be different, make an impression, always helps.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that too, because or what you said initially, where you said a lot of people are doing this, and then the reality is a lot of people aren't doing anything like that. I think even something as simple, if you're interviewing right now or you're thinking about interviewing for a new opportunity, even something as simple as sending a thank you email to the hiring manager, you would think everybody does it. Less than 20%
Yeah.
of people. I guarantee you that. At least the people I speak to, less than 20% of people send a like sincere, send any type of note at all post post interview, but send a thank you note. And that type of thing really does, no BS, set you apart from, from the rest of the crowd. And doing something as further in depth as taking a minute, 2-minute video and just saying thank you that way. I think that's even a next step that makes it very difficult to look at that and be like, this person doesn't want this job, or
Yeah.
it's a great next
Yeah,
step for
you'd
you.
be surprised. Yeah, to your point, there's only a small percentage of people, and even when they do send the note, it's sort of like, "Great catching up, looking forward to next," or like, there's nothing about the conversation
Yep,
that really hit home to show that you care, and you know that's part of it. It's definitely part of it. Yeah.
definitely is. And looking back, and now you've been with Proof Talent, I think this week or last week actually was your 2-year mark at Proof of Talent. But I want to kind of zoom back to when you first started, within like the first 3 to 6 months, started working here. What was what was your initial reaction to working in the crypto industry for the first like 3 to 6 months? Did anything surprise you or stand out to you at all when it came to working with job seekers or employers in the industry?
Yeah, yeah, there was definitely it was so exciting to see, because when I was before I get into that question, I always thought about, from a recruitment perspective, the business that has the most success is either, you see sort of the large firms that have been around for a while, or a firm that's so niche and specific. And I saw that as such an opportunity. But getting into your point, the first 3 to 6 months, I think the biggest impression that I had was the level of talent that I was speaking to, that was interested in all of these different projects and protocols, and all the different applications, the genuine excitement. I was speaking, I think one of my first roles, I was working on a GC position, a general counsel legal position, and I was speaking to people who were head regulators of our government. I was speaking to people who came from the biggest law firms in the world. I was speaking to people who came from Facebook and Amazon and Google, and all these major companies, all these people that were so ready to talk about this space, this next step. And I think that just blew me away. And I think that still holds true today. Just the level of talent is pretty outstanding. So definitely positive going forward for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about operating in the industry. And I also think one of the most positive things when you talk about like surviving through a quote unquote bear market and recruiting through that as well, is even though the prices of a lot of assets right now are down 70-80%. I mean, started the company in 2019, 2020, things weren't that great in 2019 and through COVID and all that type of stuff. But kind of regardless of where things are going, there are still so many people that are wildly passionate about this industry. And even if they're not working in it full time, like they really truly want to find that opportunity and want to make a difference in it. And I'm sure there are other industries out there like that, but there are not many. Like there are a lot of people in the world that are just cashing paychecks, and there's nothing wrong with that because you have to pay
Yeah.
the bills. But like there's something to be said about really truly caring about the space that you're operating in. And because of that, I think especially as recruiters, it's cool to speak to people that
Yeah.
care versus people that are just like, all right, this is my next job and I'm going to hate my life, but like, hey, I need this job. So I think that's such a cool thing about the
Yeah.
industry.
And it still holds true. And it's especially now. I think what's so cool, and people talk to me about it too, like you said, prices are dropped a little bit. And people
A little
and
bit.
a lot of the people that were excited then, the people who were truly passionate about it are still excited about it. There was a lot of people who maybe were just in it for the wrong reasons, or heard about it, or just weren't really passionate about trying to push the industry forward. But all the people that are still here still have the conviction, and maybe a bit of a contrarian mindset. Like they're still ready to go, ready to build, and there's money flowing into the space. So positive to see.
Totally. And thinking about getting started too, I know you had some background before you started at Proof of Talent in terms of, like you said, some personal investing and overall interest. But was there any type of content or learning or anything that you did on that front that was helpful when you were getting started?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a ton of information out there, some good, some bad. I would say um, maybe in the beginning, the information that I was getting from videos, I had to sort of think critically and maybe cipher some of that out. If you see a lot of videos with this subject line like to the moon or making make all the money in the all that, that's they're probably not well educated on it. But I think when I started doing some serious thinking about it and talking with you and talking to a lot of people, there's a lot of research firms. Missari is a great firm that does a lot of research. Delphi Digital as another one. You look at some of the major publishers in the space that are pumping out articles. I just think there was a lot of good information out there. I think, and it's just finding out what is the best information to look at. You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I think it's kind of the problem in terms of learning in the space is twofold. There's a lot of content. So like you said, you have to filter through like you have to learn what's kind of good content and what's bad content in terms of just like educational. Like it's one thing if you want to be entertained, and there's a lot of crypto YouTube that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
entertainment, but it's not necessarily
Right.
educational. But on the flip side too, once you figure that out, then it's also kind of have to consume the content, and that can be tough too because the space moves so quickly. But if you just kind of have some diligence, it makes the ability to consume that in bite-sized pieces definitely a little bit more
For
palatable.
sure, for sure. And even now, I think one that I've been listening to a lot is Blockworks has a great podcast called Empire, and they have real subject matter experts in this space, um, and they're just pumping out some great content right now. So that's definitely one. I think Pomp has some great stuff, and some courses and things like that. So there's good information out there too.
Totally. Thinking about your time in the industry now professionally for the past 2 years, has your view changed at all on anything over the past 2 years?
Yeah, yeah. I think when I started, I had this picture in my head that we were uh, that the tech was like everyone is going to be using technology tomorrow. Like I just thought that we were like on the cusp, that inflection point, and I think we are getting a lot closer. But I think there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of innovation that still needs to be done. There's a lot of abstraction of complexity for general population that is still being done. The infrastructure is being built. So there's a ton of really smart people focusing on this every day, heads down, grinding it out. I think there's a little bit longer of a timeline before we have sort of like, when you think about where the technology of like Facebook is, where there's like parents and grandparents on it. Do I think we're there yet? No. Do I think we're going to be there soon? Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. There's I don't remember who it is, and I feel like I've heard it on a bunch of podcasts, but I think it's very true. It's like people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Exactly.
And I think that is maybe it's a little bit shorter. Maybe in the crypto space, it's they overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years. Because I think that is very true within the space. Is everything does move quickly, but at the same time, it takes quite a while for certain things to really get true traction, and also to find that product market fit, find success. So you have to take a long term look at some of this stuff while also maintaining a critical eye on if something is not finding success because of that time horizon or just because it doesn't have product market fit at
Right.
all. So there's a weird in between there as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that happens with a lot of technology now, especially innovative technology. You look at AI and some of the other technologies that are out there, it's kind of in that similar growth phase. But I think the thing that keeps me very bullish on the industry, very excited, is the talent, but also the amount of money that's going into venture capital that's funding these companies. Um, I think that sort of the fact that they're doubling down, they're tripling down, their conviction is there. Um, it just sort of has a effect on who comes in, who's making the decisions, and the innovation that continues to happen.
Yeah. Thinking about somebody trying to get a job in the crypto industry right now, is there any advice specifically that you would give them when they're trying to start a career in the space?
Definitely. I think when you think about this industry versus others, there's a ton of parallels. We've placed hundreds of people now in this space in all different skill sets, hard skills. It's not just people. I think tend to have this thought, and I've talked to people a lot who say, "Oh, I'm not a Solidity engineer. I probably can't get into the space." It's like, well, there's sales, there's marketing, there's operations, everything that you would think of in a traditional business, there is in the crypto space. So I think if you're passionate about the space, you have a hard skill, think about how it can fit into this industry. Align yourself with the right people. I would say there's tons of avenues to reach out to people that are already in the space, to chat with them through LinkedIn, Twitter, Discord, you name it. And I think there's a ton of ways where you can put even on your profiles that you show, maybe it's a certification with Pomp, and the team, or just putting, passion about Web3 or blockchain. That's how a lot of people like us can find you and find your hard skills mixed with the passion for crypto and blockchain, and hopefully make some introductions.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Part of it is having some type of transferable skill set when you're looking for a job opportunity in the industry. It's like you ideally want to be doing something that can potentially where your existing skill set can transition into
Yeah.
the industry. So, like you said, whether that's sales or operations or marketing or legal or some type of software engineering, like there are a lot of things that have direct application to jobs within the industry. And if you can build up that competency while also maintaining genuine interest in whatever your passion is within the space, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or NFTs or DeFi, whatever the heck it is, if you can build up that professional skill set elsewhere, ideally while getting paid to do so from somebody else, and then you are at that point in time a good software engineer, a good salesperson, people will be very receptive to those conversations with you. And I think that's something that is a lot of people get, but I think there's also some people are just like, hey, I want to work in the industry. It's like, well, you need to be able to contribute something to a
Yeah.
company.
And funny enough, I recently had a conversation with a marketer who is currently at a popular layer one blockchain. I won't name the name, but he said to me the way that he got his job at that blockchain was he messaged the head of marketing at the blockchain that they were at, and he basically made some constructive criticisms over a video they put out, or whatever strategy that they were using, and then put all of the ways he would make it better and showed that and just sent it all to him. And the guy was like, we need to talk. So it's just
Yep.
another layer of showing the value that you bring in your skill and your passion for the space can get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Yeah. Like going back to the video that you made too, it's like going the extra mile in an area where people wouldn't do so. If you are looking for a job, whether it's in crypto or
Yeah.
it's not in crypto, but if you do something that is slightly above average, where you're like, hey, nobody's asking me to do this. Nobody is making me, do this step, but I want to do this because I would like a job here. I would want to start a career here. Go ahead and do it. Like the worst thing that happens is you take an hour of your time and maybe you improve upon something, but sometimes that extra step is really what gets you over the hump and gets you into a competitive role that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. So taking that extra step in an interview process at any point in time is always something that is, I think, worth your time.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And it's, I'd always rather do more instead of less and then go back and regret not having done it or tried something. So I think that's sort of a good mentality to have.
Yeah. And finishing it off here, I would be curious, and this could be anything in the industry. What are you excited about in the near to medium term future? Is there anything in particular that you've been, companies, products, anything, themes? What do you have your eye on that you're excited about in the future here within the
Yeah.
industry?
I think more broadly, I'm excited about, as I was saying earlier, the VC capital and sort of the human capital that's coming into this space. But if I would say in general, I think just overall, I'm seeing some trends on increased focus on building the infrastructure and also the abstraction of complexity around a lot of these products, particularly when you think of wallets and how people interact with applications or NFTs or anything like that. I'm excited that it's becoming easier to use day by day, and a lot of the technology on the back end. I think, like any technology, if you looked at the internet when it started and having to send an email, it's like it was 80,000 steps. You needed to know how to code, to be able to send an email. Now an email is just part of a job, and I think we're starting to see trends like that more broadly within the space, which gets me pretty optimistic. I don't want to necessarily say specific projects or names of companies, but I think as a broader trend, that's something that's exciting to me.
Yeah, that's there's been a lot of improvements, and I think people sometimes focus too much on areas around the economic side of
Yeah,
things and don't pay attention as much to some of the improvements on the product side. And there's certainly been some really impressive leaps and bounds in terms of just user experience over the past 3-4 years, which has been awesome to see. So yeah, great point there. For anybody that is interested in finding an opportunity in the crypto industry, how can they reach out? How can they find you?
yeah. My email. I'm always on LinkedIn. Pretty much 24/7. My email is jared@proofoftalent.co. Um, I'm on Telegram too. I'm on Twitter. I would say probably the best place to reach out to me is LinkedIn, just because I'm on it so much. But yeah, looking forward to talking to anyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate your personal journey into the space and the advice you had for people. And I hope for anybody who is looking for that next step career wise that this was a helpful episode for you. And until next time, have a good one. See
See
ya.
ya.